Hi everybody, this is a video to show you how to take to a design space the new SVG to create a cookie jar, and it's quite a big SVG. I made the jar as big as I possibly could on 12 by 12, and then you've got the option to reduce it, of course, if you don't want to make it that big. So there it is. I've just brought it in from my library. I'm going to start off by just showing you how to convert the score lines, and then we'll talk about the different versions you can make with it and what duplications you would need to do that. I'm working on it's just updated as design space, so I hope I don't encounter anything I'm not expecting. Right, so the first thing to do with any multi-part SVG that's got score lines that you bring into design space is to convert those lines that come in as cuts but which actually need to be scores. We can't make them come in already set to score, unfortunately, but it's a super quick thing to change. My score lines always live in that first subgroup in your layers panel. I'm working on design space desktop version for PC. If you're on the mobile app, then make sure you can see your layers panel. So you're just going to select that first subgroup in the layers panel by clicking on the second line down, which is the name of that group, and just clicking on the name of it selects everything in the group. You can see it's highlighted everything there. So once that subgroup is selected, go over to your operations menu, click on basic cut and choose score from the drop down menu. And you can see that those lines are being converted now, they're all dashed. And while they're still selected, we need to ungroup them. So on the desktop version, ungroup is at the top of your layers panel. Just click on ungroup. The second step is to select all the cut pieces now, and they're in the group underneath. All you need to do once you've selected those is ungroup again. And then your third step is to select the whole SVG, and the quickest way to do that if you're in your layers panel is just to click on that final overall group and ungroup once more. So now everything is a separate piece, and you can attach the score lines to the individual pieces that they relate to. It's really important to do it with any SVG file, to do it individual pieces, or your chances are you'll end up with a project which is too big to cut. But it's really important to do it with this one because there are so many different versions that you could possibly make, so we need all the pieces separate. So that's the top of the lid, no scores on that. These are the lid walls, so I'm just going to click on canvas somewhere near a piece, drag a box to enclose it, and then I'm choosing attach at the bottom of the layers panel. Again, if you're in the mobile app, that'll be somewhere else. And then once you've done that, when you move them, they all move together. Until you've attached them, you can see you can pick up your scores and they move on their own, and they would appear on a separate mat on their own as well, and you don't want that. So again, we're going to attach those two. So that's the lid and the lid walls. These smaller pieces are the collar, which goes around this opening in the cookie jar that the lid slots onto. So again, we're going to attach that. This is the acetate for I'm calling it the front or the back because I'm calling the narrower bit the side wall. It's difficult to know exactly what to call it, but the hexagonal big piece, I'm calling that the front or the back, and the smaller walls that go around and form the wider hexagon, I'm calling those side walls. So this is the frame which makes the front or the back piece. Now, if you decided to make your box with solid walls, all you would do is you'd select that piece and you'd go to your contour feature here, and you would just click on that center so that it disappears, and then you'd be able to cut a solid piece. So I'm going to not do that though, because I think I'm going to show you how to cut one with windows. In any event, whether you've got a solid piece or a frame, you need two, don't you? You need a front and a back. And if you're doing the window, you need a front and a back window as well. So just select those two pieces and duplicate. What I tend to do with projects like this, where you've got all the pieces to make various different kinds in one file, I do all the conversion and attaching the score lines, and then I save it as a project. And then when you come to make it another time, everything you need is there and already converted, and you can just get rid of the pieces that you don't need, duplicate it to make the pieces that you do. So this would be the side wall if you were making solid side walls, but you just need that opening for the collar. I'm going to attach that, and then this is the solid side wall. And obviously, because a hexagon has 6 sides, you would need 2 of those. So you would just duplicate. I did that with Control D on my keyboard then. The duplicate button is up there at the top of your layers panel. This piece is what you would use if you were making completely windowed walls, like I have in one of my pictures, the silvery white one, because this has got the hole for the collar and the hole for the acetate window. And similarly, this is the side wall you would use if you were making a box like that with acetate windows all the way around. So again, I'm just clicking on screen, dragging a box to enclose it and attaching the scores. And if you were using the fully windowed box, you would need another of those obviously as well, and you would need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these. Again, I'm just clicking Control D there. So what I've created now on my canvas is the full project I'm ever going to need, and I would save that at this point as a project. I will save it. I'll just call it cookie jar. I've already saved it, but I'll delete this one when we've done. Right. So now you would need to decide which kind of cookie jar you were going to make, and you would temporarily delete all the pieces you don't need depending on which version you're making. I make the lid in the SVG a different colour just to differentiate it on the mat, but in actual fact you'll probably make your lid out of the same colour, and if you do, just go down here where that is and drag it onto the same red layer. I've did that in the colour sync panel there. I don't know if you have that in the mobile version. If you don't, all you would do is click on it, go up there and make it the colour you wanted. These are already attached, so you'd need to find them in your... Have I attached those? Yes, I have. Yeah, so you need to select the piece in the layers panel in that case, because when it's attached you can't change the colour. So again, find the piece in your layers panel and change the colour that way. 2 different ways to do it. Right, so I'm going to decide now that I'm making a box which is completely windowed, so I don't want any solid walls at all. So I'm going to get rid of these 3 pieces. When I say get rid of, I'm just going to delete them for now, and then when I've finished making my project, when I've finished cutting it, I would just close Design Space down without saving any changes, so that it looks like it did, so that it still looks like that when I come to work on it next time. So I'm going to get rid of those. So I do need the collar. I do need 5 windows to fill these gaps here. I do need a front and a back and a window to go inside them, and I do need the lid. So we've got that all there. I'm going to click make it. You can of course make this project using A3 and the long mat, but I'm going to show us using it on 12 by 12 on the standard mat, because that's what most people seem to use. And as you can see, if we do that, we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sheets of card to cut the main box. And then, oh yes, I need to show you that. Right. These pieces measure 23.3 centimetres wide, point to point here, and 20.2 centimetres top to bottom. Now, an A4 sheet of acetate is 21 centimetres deep, so this will cut from A4, but when you go to make it, Design Space will tell you it won't. So we need to make sure that they go on mats on their own. So just for the sake, just to make them do that, I'm just going to make them a different colour. I'll press make it again. I'm choosing 12 by 12 for the card pieces, and we need 5 sheets. And then for these little windows, I'm going to choose, can see it, A4. So we can see you get 2 of the sidewall windows on one A4, and then for these we can't choose A4, so I'm just going to choose 12 by 12. But when I send that to print, I will use the standard mat just the same, but I will position an A4 landscape on my mat, and I'll just drop it down. In fact, sorry, I'll just move it over to, because this is the no, it's the depth. Yeah, it's the depth that's the issue. I'll just drop it down a couple of millimeters from that very first grid line on your mat. And then when I cut mine, I can usually see that I've got about 5 millimeters of waste, 4 or 5 millimeters of waste either side. But it will for sure cut on A4. I did discover actually today that you can get A3 sheets of PVC, which is what I'm using at the moment. I'm using those binder covers that you can get for booklets that you would use with a binding machine. They're a lot cheaper than acetate, and they're really lovely and clear. And especially now I've discovered that you can get A3 in that size. That means you could, if you wanted, make this cookie jar even bigger than I've made it here. But anyway, for now, we're using it A4, and these 2 pieces will for sure cut on A4. It's just that Design Space tells you they won't because of its own cutting margins. Okay, so I think that's all I need to show you. I'm going to press cancel because obviously I'm not cutting it. Let me just have a quick think and see if there's anything else I need to tell you. You do get a PDF of really comprehensive instructions to show you how to assemble this box. It's not difficult, and if you're not using the windowed versions, if you're just making a solid cookie jar, it's really quick. It's really quick. You do need to be a little bit careful when you're joining the faces to the side walls to get a really good join, and the same with the lid. But once you've made one, you'll know exactly what you're doing. And my only recommendation would be use PVA glue, not tape, for those pieces. I do say this in the PDF of assembly instructions, and really follow the instructions closely, and I'm sure you'll achieve a lovely result. If you have any more questions when you come to cut it or assemble it, don't hesitate to get in touch. I really am always happy to help. The details for getting in touch are in the description below. You can contact me on Facebook or Etsy, whichever's best for you. And if you've just stumbled across this video and you'd like to buy the SVG, the link to do that is also in the description below. Thanks a lot. Bye.